Now let's look at another service provided by Azure focused towards enabling better cloud governance and monitoring. Azure Resource Graph is an efficient resource exploration tool wherein you'll get the ability to write queries similar to Kusto queries at scale and audit and monitor resources across the subscriptions. Azure Resource Graph query language has the ability to uh, group, and sort resources across the resource group. You can write queries to iterate through individual resource based on various fields and attributes, and also understand the policies that have been applied and the impact. So effectively, you can use resource graph to identify those resources which are not compliant, or get a group them by based on the compliance or non-compliance, group them based on the team or the PU wherein you have this compliant non-compliance issues. So you'll be able to write a single query and then um, fix the compliance issues or any other um, issues. So currently, the Azure Resource Group, the query supports multiple fields based on which you can identify and get the resource list. These include the name of the resource group, name of the resource, the ID, type, the resource group name, subscription name, and location. So you could use a combination of any of these queries to iterate through or get a list of resource, iterate through the resources, and then apply or review the status of the resource. One of the key important stuff when it comes to resource graph uh, is in an organization where the infrastructure and resources are being created almost on a daily basis. So the question is, how does the Azure Resource Group ensure it is always up to date? The Azure Resource Graph is kept up to date with two options. One is on demand, wherein there's a full scan of the subscription and the management group to ensure all the latest resources and infrastructure are tracked. And there is also a real-time event which is triggered, which and then on change of the some set of properties, the resource graph is updated, which means anytime you run your query, you can be confident of getting the latest set of resource and the details of the infrastructure without having to worry about servicing or not having the right data. So now let's quickly look at how Azure Resource Graph work and write a sample query for us to understand the same. Now let's quickly get into hands-on on to understand the interface for resource graph and various capabilities that are available for you to explore the resources in your organization and the infrastructure. So going to the Azure portal, you can search for Azure Resource Graph, or you can even search for Resource Graph Explorer. So you get two. If I just search for Resource Graph, you get two kind of services. One is the Explorer, one is the Queries. So queries is the place where you can see all your saved queries and write queries directly. Now Graph Explorer is where you can develop your queries and then manage the queries here. So if you notice here, there's a simple query. This is where I can write similar to your Custo queries. I can go ahead and write queries to get resources based on location, based on name, based on resource group. I can also use the interface to generate the queries as I need. So for example, here you have the categories and the tables. So you can say, let's say you want to get the list of resource where the uh, so you want to get the resource where you are going to get all the resources of all the resource groups from the subscription. And if you want to get all the resource group based on the provision state is and is it ready? If I say get me all the resource groups where the provision state is ready, then it would get me the same. So now if I do this, where right, I may have to write a query. So here I'm getting all the resource groups that are defined in this resource group. Now similarly, I can go here and get all the types of databases wherein if I want to get list of Redis cache that are created in this subscription, I can write a query. So effectively, I can go ahead and create these queries, use the interface to generate the initial queries, fine tune it, and then go ahead and save the query. So a list, I can give it a name, list all Redis cache, right? And then I can say, and I can save it as a private or a shared query. I'm going to save it in the shared query and save. So now I can use this query to generate reports, generate various other graphs or analytics, which will be helpful to review and audit the resources. Now going back, and if I go to resource graph queries, I'll be able to see the details about the individual queries. So if you, this is one of the sample query where it is getting all the list of uh, queries, a list of resource groups that are available. So this is the query to get me the list of resources that are saved. Now I can select and then I can see the results and see the various graphs and reports around that. So if you have a very, if you're new, if you become an admin for an existing subscription or a resource group, and you want to analyze and understand the status and various resources, this is a good starting point for you to get an idea of various resources on the infrastructure and the status from provisioning state of view or from compliance and policy state of view. So this is a free service, and it's restricted right now to give you a view of resources to ensure there's an efficiency and better results for the customer. It is not really available for write queries across the resource, but it's a good starting point for one to understand the current infrastructure and the status.